Hello and welcome back to the Authentic Creative, expanding our capacity to feel good. I'm so excited because I have my new friend Aneta here. And I'm very excited to chat with. We're going to see how this journey unfolds, this magic carpet ride unfolds. We've met briefly, and so you're going to be discovering our friendship as we're discovering it, but we have so much in common. Kat Caldwell Myers, who I just was on her podcast and she just released it. I was just listening to it. I haven't even finished listening to the episode,
Mhm.
but she is who connected us, and I'm so grateful because there's a dream of mine that you align with, Aneta, and I can't wait. Am I saying your name right?
You are,
Okay,
and
good.
super
I always have to
exciting.
double check, and it's like in
Yes.
every episode, I'm like, am I saying your name? Okay. So Aneta, guys, she's a coach, wellness consultant, yoga and meditation teacher, breathwork facilitator, author, and podcast host. You can see why we're talking. She specializes in helping high achieving professionals and entrepreneurs redefine success. I love that it's like redefined. Like, what does success mean to you? And design lives that they love. After 25 successful years in the corporate world, Aneta experienced burnout and began her own transformation journey. She now works with individuals and organizations to reduce stress, overcome limiting beliefs, and create healthier, more fulfilling lives through mindful leadership, focus, and optimal health. Aneta is the host of Live the Width of Your Life podcast, launched in 2022, which has over 50 episodes. And I'm sure there's more now since having, written this bio, 5,000 downloads and ranks in the top 5% of podcasts globally. She's the author of Live the Width of Your Life, 365 daily meditations, and a regular contributor to Brains Magazine and Thrive Global. In her free time, Aneta enjoys practicing yoga, traveling, reading, cooking, and exploring nature with her husband and two daughters. I'm so delighted to have you here. This is going to be such an exciting conversation. I can't wait to see how it unfolds because you're such a dynamic, beautiful, creative, entrepreneurial person who's
Mm.
helping people, women specifically, to thrive in the best possible ways. We are in the midst of holiday season, right? It's like
Yes.
November, mid-November. We're about to go in. We just came out of Halloween. We're about to go into Thanksgiving. We're about to go into Christmas and then into New Year's and then into like the fresh start where we all kind of are like looking at where do we want to reinvent? Where do we want to like kind of drop off what's not working and pick up the things that are more authentically important to us, more in alignment with our creativity, more in alignment with the breath of who we are? Like, what do we really care about? So, all that being said, what's on your heart right now in this moment?
Well, Siri, thank you so much for having me on. I was so looking forward to our conversation. After we had our initial quick, like, hey, let's just meet, because Kat introduced us, I thought, oh my gosh, I cannot. We decided immediately we're going to be on each other's podcasts and continue this conversation and just continue to work and support one another as women, as entrepreneurs, as soul sisters. So my heart right now is just complete gratitude for being here and just gratitude for Kat for the introduction. And of course, I met
Yes.
Kat through a very serendipitous way as well. And it's just this beautiful unfolding of life, I think, since I left corporate, where I had my head down and I was very focused on doing what was expected of me.
Yeah.
And being in this new chapter of my life where I get to do what I want to do and help others, other women, especially build these lives they love. I'm so grateful for that every single day. And I love being able to share my story in hopes that others, if they're listening and maybe they've been sitting on the sidelines, say, huh, I wonder if I can do that too.
I
Mm.
love it. Yeah, tell me about your journey from corporate to living in a more authentically aligned, thriving, on your terms type of a life.
Yeah. It's the classic like good girl grows up to be a good, continues to be a good girl. I think
Yeah.
I always you know, I was definitely a people pleaser. I was a rule follower. I was someone who thrived on achievement and accomplishment and external praise and validation all throughout school, at home, and then in the workplace.
Mm,
And I just assumed that that was what we do, that we
mhm,
graduate and get married and have a family, which I knew I wanted to do, but that you find a job that allows you to kind of do all these things. And I thought that success was having a really good title and having respect within my career.
mhm,
I thought it meant being promoted often. I thought it meant that you had to work hard, of course, because anything worth having was required a lot of hard work.
mhm.
And I did that until the point where I was severely burned out. I
Yeah.
was resentful,
Mhm,
and I didn't know where to place that resentment. It was like with myself, with God, maybe at some point, if I'm honest to admit it, like
yeah.
I just was like, what? I did all the things that I was supposed to do. I followed all the rules. Why am I so dissatisfied right now? Why am I so tired? Why is it so hard to get up? Why am I
Yes.
angry all the time?
Mm,
And also, shame for feeling that way because I was so grateful for my
right.
family, for our health, for all the blessings that I have in my life. So it's not like I wasn't grateful, but there was a shame associated with guilt for even wanting more.
Yeah, how dare I? Because I've checked the boxes and I should be
Right?
happy. And
Yeah.
what's wrong with me? As
What's
opposed
wrong with
to
me?
you probably started to wake up to like, oh, wait, there actually isn't anything wrong with me. It's just the system and the conditioning.
Yeah. Yeah. And my body told me that there was something wrong because I had a couple of health scares. Actually,
Mhm.
in 2011, I was working full time, raising my family. I had a big department, a big team, and I was in school full time. I was getting my executive MBA. So I decided, yeah, let's go back to school because I needed more credibility. I needed to do something else, continue to achieve, right?
Mhm.
And it wasn't enough. And then I had two unexpected surgeries in October and November of that year.
Mhm.
And both were associated with women's health. One was on my breast, and the other one was on my
Mm.
ovary, and literally in October and then November. So barely enough time to even recover from each surgery. Now,
Yeah.
luckily, there was nothing I could come back from. The results were back benign in both cases, but it was a wake up call that really shook me to say, okay, now are you listening? My body was saying, are you now paying attention?
Yep.
Is this enough?
Yep.
And I knew then that I needed to start making some changes. And it started my journey. I would probably say that's probably when it started my journey to say, okay, I need to start looking at life a little bit differently and figure out how to, one, what do I want? And two, how do I make that happen?
Yeah, I love it. Thank you for sharing that so
Yeah.
vulnerably. I love that you shared about shame and guilt because I
Yeah.
think shame and guilt are so pervasive in our society, particularly American kind of Christian Catholic Jewish society, but just as women
Yeah.
specifically, and seeped in our religious kind of, even if we didn't grow up in a religious way, there it's just ancestrally there. Where do you think
Absolutely.
the shame and the guilt, what are some of the ways that it's creeped in? Is it from religion? Is it from conditioning? Is it from ancestry? Is it just being a woman? Like, where is that for you? Is it all of it?
Yeah, it's probably all of it. I mean, my background is, my parents and I, we immigrated from the former Yugoslavia and, hardworking farmers, so this lineage of people who worked really hard, who went through many wars, right? Many different
Mm,
occupations and worked very hard. And so I think of all the sacrifices and what people have had to do before me and what they had to endure. And you think, what am I complaining about? Like
yeah.
I am the dream that probably they couldn't have even imagined for their lineage and for their, great granddaughter. And I was the first to go to college and the first, to kind of have work in the corporate space. And so there's a lot of that. But I
Got
think
it.
I realized that So who says that that's the end of my story? Who says that that's enough? Why is that?
Mm-hmm.
Why is surviving just enough?
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that it wasn't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, you have actually a responsibility because of the advantages
Right.
that you're able to have now to help more people,
Yeah.
to show the way, to be the lighthouse.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and what is more freedom? And what does that freedom look like?
That's right. And who said that what the yardstick for success is? I didn't necessarily choose that. I just
Mm-hmm.
assumed that that's what it was. But when doing the work and redefining for myself what success really was, it looked completely different, you know?
Yeah, so what does success in this moment, like literally today, Aneta?
Hmm.
Because we're always iterating, we're always re-examining, right?
Yeah, it starts with living a life that is aligned to my values, that is in full integrity with who I am, what I believe. It is a life that is aligned to God, to my creator, aligned to this beautiful Mother Earth that in this earthly body that we get to inhabit. It's aligned to my purpose, to my dharma, so that
Mhm.
every single day I am able to show up in the highest version of myself and help others. It's freedom to
Mhm.
be able to design my days and my life in the way that works for me and for my family. It's the freedom to be able to take better care of myself and to invest in my routines and the things that make me feel good in my self-care. It's the freedom of creativity, time and space to write, to do the things that my soul wants to do. And to just work with the most amazing people. Like, I just think that that's like one of the other gifts is
Yeah.
to say, I get to choose who I get to work with. And if I'm doing things right, the people who align to me and to my energy are going to come into my world naturally.
Yes.
And that all of that has just been the greatest gift.
Amazing. I'm curious about the women that you help. Is it predominantly women?
I have male clients as well. And so I
Great.
would say at this moment right now, I do have more female clients, but I do corporate programs too. And so there's a great number of men as well. And in my morning meditation program, I actually have males that have been with me for like 4 years that show up every single day. So, but predominantly, I would say on the coaching side, it's women that I'm working with right now.
So tell me about a client that is on your heart in this moment that just when I mention it, like, oh my God, that transformation that we went through together, that I held them through, I led them through, I saw further for them. Like, what is one of your favorite experiences of transformation?
Mm. Gosh, there's a few that kind of come to mind. And one is a woman that I've been working with probably for about 4 years now. And I don't typically have clients that stay for that long. Like
Mhm.
it's just that we've been working through so many different things. And with her, it was just being able to create health and wellness routines that allowed her to get back to a place of harmony and balance. We worked together to create routines that she never had before that allowed her
Mm.
to have more space in her life to do the things that she wanted. We worked on building her business and kind of restructuring, rebranding, and saying, what do you want to do? Because she'd been in business for so long and it was time to kind of just freshen things up and say, you can change this and you can work with new clients and you can upscale and you can charge new prices, right? Just to be able to open that up for her. She
Yeah, like
also,
go into your closet, your
yeah,
metaphorical business
yeah,
closet, and say, I don't really like wearing this anymore.
yeah, exactly. And now we're working on her um finishing a book that she had written. And so it's like a beautiful unfolding of all of these dreams that she's had on her heart for so long and just working on them a little bit at a time, each one to the point where she's like, well, I want to do more. And she was just such a beautiful story because I've seen her through the beginning and through now, and so much has changed in her life. And she's strengthening her relationships with her family. And she's been able to
Mm,
take the month of the December off and spend time with her parents who live out of state and take time
amazing.
off. And right. And so
Yeah.
sometimes it's just holding a mirror to someone and
Yeah.
saying, hey, look how amazing you are. And guess what? You also get to decide what you want this life to look like. You get to decide what your business gets to do for you. You get to decide whether you need to grow and like actually additional revenue every year, or if you want to do less work, and that's okay too. And we'll focus on
Right.
profit. Like all of these things. I think that's part of the beauty of coaching.
Yeah.
Um,
Like
but there's
what's right size for you?
right
Yeah.
now. Yeah. What
Yeah.
does this year look like for
Yeah.
you? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm curious, what are you finding that seems to be the common in your work pain point? Like is the feedback that you're getting from the people that you're talking to? What is the struggle that they're having?
Yeah. The struggle that I'm seeing right now is people are exhausted. So
Mm,
there's a couple of things. So
yeah.
um, the landscape is really challenging right now. It's taking an emotional toll on a lot of people, right? Just looking at
Particularly, are these like creatives or non-creatives or both?
they could be both, but it's just the landscape of energetically, the election was really hard. The fact
Yeah.
that there's so much war happening in the
Yeah.
world and that we're, involved, the social media and just the amount of data and energy
Yes.
that people are consuming all of the time from there.
Yes.
On top of then demands from their organizations, which are really challenging. Some people's routines were disrupted during COVID, then they were disrupted again if they were asked to come back. If they're entrepreneurs, that has also changed in terms of how they do business.
Yeah.
Uh, and there seems to be more work than people can keep up with. Now, part of it is that the demands are so great by organizations. And secondly, we also are dealing with a lot of cognitive overload because
Mm,
the demands on our brain are higher than we actually can keep up with. We have all this technology. So at any given time, we are interrupted constantly and distracted. People can send you a
yes.
Slack message and a team message, and they could text you, and they can call you, and they
And
can email
Voxer
you
you.
and Voxer you, and they do all of them, right?
And
And so
email you. Yeah.
there's this like
It's like
demand.
a million different ways to get a hold of
Yes.
someone.
And every time that does that, our brain actually is not designed to be interrupted. It takes our brain 25 minutes to get back to the level of focus that it had before. So,
Yeah.
all of these things. And then on top of it, everyone has stuff at home that they're dealing with. Everyone's
Mm.
got a story. A lot of my
Mhm.
clients are in middle age. And so they might be taking care of kids and they're also taking
Take
care of
care of their
aging parents.
parents.
Yeah,
Yes.
and other people are just dealing with their own health issues. So there's a lot, and there's still, I think we're more open at work, and people are more open in terms of mental health challenges.
Hmm.
But there's still, I think, a desire sometimes, especially as women, to keep things private, to not share and reveal too much. We don't want to be seen as weak. We don't want exceptions made for us, and so I think all
Right.
these things just add a level of pressure and stress that we need to figure out what to do with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was talking to my dad when he was just visiting now, and he was sharing stuff about the election and watching the news. And, just he said, I said, well, do you think it's going to get harder for entrepreneurs now? And he said, well, I think there's certainly going to be more people needing more help. And, without us getting political, I just think anytime there's an election,
Mhm.
there's a readjustment, and it kicks up issues. It kicks up all of the things that we care about, that
Yeah.
we're scared about, that these transitions can be quite the upheaval. I know
Yeah.
for me, I have done better when I don't immerse myself in too much of world politics because I'm not a politician. I'm not on the front lines of that. There have
Yeah.
been seasons of my life where I have been quite involved. And that's okay too. It's great. My parents, my mom and my stepdad, they petition and they go in there and they go to the White House and so
Mm.
they're involved. But what do you find to be, if someone's listening to this and they're kind of trying to navigate these waters for themselves, what would your guidance be?
Yeah, so my clients had a lot of my clients struggled, and there was a lot of my friends struggled. And so I would say take a break from social media.
Mm,
Take a break from the news. You
yeah,
can selectively choose to pull information in from sources that you trust when
exactly.
you feel energetically rich that you are able to do that, but allow yourself to be very intentional about what it is that you are consuming and when. So that's the first thing I would say. The second thing I would say is we can't always make assumptions. We don't know exactly how things are going to work out. So, a lot of times we have fears or we're trying to anticipate or we're fueling energy that is not helpful or beneficial to ourselves. And then that
Yeah.
creates a ripple effect in our families, with the people we're speaking with, if we're posting. And then the third thing I would say is just examine your own heart.
Mm,
Like, examine yourself and say, am I as loving? Am I as kind? Am I as compassionate? Am I as forgiving? Am I as understanding? Do I listen? Do I seek to be curious about different points of view? Am I able to have a conversation without judgment? Go through all of those things and create a pure heart for yourself. Do a loving kindness meditation, whatever it is. And I tell you, your life will be better.
wow.
And it will send a ripple effect out into the world. If every single one of us did that and decided to show up and not be part of the
Divisiveness.
divisiveness and fueling this sense of anger and hostility
More of
and
this same rhetoric that's just gonna
yeah,
create more chaos. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I felt bathed by those three steps. I felt bathed in love and light and pureness. I mean, I love how you said earlier about the richness of your, if you feel energetically rich, first of all, that was an incredible two words put together.
yeah,
But then this three-step process you just went through is just like, oh, yes, like more of this, please, Aneta, because this is where it's all at. Like, regardless of who's leading each country, it's like, what can we do for what can, how Oprah talks about, like, if we each just took,
yeah,
took care of ourselves. And that's what I hear you saying is like,
yeah,
are you listening? Are you being compassionate? Are you pure in your heart? Are you forgiving? Can you
right,
forgive yourself for the things that you're holding against yourself? Because ultimately, that's the mirror for society.
yeah,
And that's the best thing we can do through the practices that you work with. Breath work and yoga and all of these
yeah,
transformative practices, journaling, meditation that we do as healers, or whatever you want to call, like a warrior of light, like these things,
right,
the coaches, whatever we call ourselves, this is the work of come into alignment with your truth, with your heart, clean your heart.
yeah. Yeah. And for me, because I have such a strong connection to the divine, I always say, like, that's where I begin. That's where I
Yeah,
start with. I start with
yeah,
my own practices and my devotion because that gets me centered and grounded and connected and gives me the discernment and gives me the wisdom and gives me that level of harmony. And so I was able to hold space for my clients
yeah,
who were struggling because I wouldn't go anywhere but from a place of love. And in any conversation, I kept going back to Byron Katie, the
yes.
questions that she asks. And so I kept saying to myself, and I thought this would be a great exercise for everyone to say, is it true? Do I know for sure that it's true?
Mhm.
Who am I when I believe these things? And who would I be if I didn't? Right. And it's like, if everyone
Wow.
just went through those questions, um, I think we'd end up somewhere different. Like, I think that we would apply not an emotional response that's tied to probably a dysregulated nervous system,
Hmm.
but instead, like, we allowed ourselves to go there and use a little bit of discernment and really
Yeah.
tap in, I think we'd be responding differently to everything.
When everyone is walking on eggshells and tense and the environment is filled with this tension, coming back to these practices that we're talking about so that it's not about, because it's not about perfection, right? We're never going to always say the right thing, always have the right reaction, always have the perfect insight, the perfect discernment. Because
Right.
as spiritual human revolutionists, I call myself, I do human revolution as a Buddhist. Like we're always wanting to like, oh, if I could just be the Dalai Lama, always like in my
Right.
responsiveness. But repair. Like, and also just how about taking a few more pauses? For me, it's taking the pause.
Hmm.
That's the practice.
Yeah.
Before I respond, I feel it. I feel something. It's coming. Here it comes. I'm having a trigger. This means there's a
Yeah.
memory response happening in my body. Can I find the wisdom to breathe, to step
Yeah.
back? Okay,
Yeah.
notice. So tell me about more. I mean, I want you to kind of take the torch that I'm just speaking about and run with that.
Yeah. Like more of what I do or what?
The process of nervous
Mm.
system regulation
Oh, yeah.
when we're in this environment of people being highly triggered.
Yeah. So I proactively every morning know that there are certain devotional practices that I choose to do because they serve me and also allow me to hold space for others and be in this place of more regulation and harmony. So for me, that's waking very early. I was actually writing about this morning when my kids were small, and I was so stressed. I would wake at 4:30 in the morning and practice yoga on my kitchen floor when
Wow.
everyone was still asleep. And it was the 1 hour in my life during that time where it was just me and the divine. It was just me and my breath. It was just me, my higher self connecting. And it was magic because it was quiet. And I found like that was just allowed me to be a better wife, allowed me to be a better mom, it allowed me to be a better daughter, better at work, and all those things.
Yes.
And so I've continued the very early morning because there's something so auspicious about that time in the morning when you just wake up and yet the world is not fully awake, sun's not out yet. So I still get up at 4:30, and for me, I have books that I love to read from, and just to fill me up with a sense of positivity, lift me up in terms of like setting an intention for the day. I usually do some gratitude and some affirmations, and then I move into my office and I do morning pages. I like to write morning pages out. That is a practice that is so beautiful for me. I know the artist's way, Julia Cameron, is amazing. I know she says to journal, but my thoughts come so quickly and I type because a lot of that
Hmm.
ends up then sparking something else that could be content creation or book ideas or whatever it is. And I'd love to be able to go back and search. And then I get on my mat and I sit there and I meditate and I breathe. And so that's usually at least 20 minutes. And then from that space, then I can go facilitate and I teach. And but that time in the morning, it's about 2 hours, and I like it because I like to drink my coffee, then I switch to tea, then or lemon water, and it allows me to just naturally, slowly unfold my day, and I have the most energy in the morning. And then throughout the day, I know I need breaks. And so for me, that will typically be additional breath work. Like I find breath work to be really nice. Sometimes if I have more time, I could sit, but I love to do breath work with certain music. Music is just so, it's just so good. And so I
Yeah.
love to listen to solfeggio frequencies, or if I need a activating breath to pick me up because my energy's low, I have tons of playlists for that as well. Um, I love to go for a walk in the morning. So after I teach, I love to be outside. So I try to go at least 45 minutes to an hour, just be outside in tree, like see the trees, touch the trees, get my
Mhm.
feet in the ground if I can. It's just, I'm such an earth sign. You could see I have plants all over my office. Like I'm just obsessed with like nature and green. And so that's really helpful for me. And then
Amazing.
yeah, and then if I'm triggered, it's definitely breathing and it's going outside. I feel like I need to get out of away from electronics, away from devices, out of, the Wi-Fi space and just get back into nature, get back into, see the sunlight and just connect again to a higher source, connect to the earth. Those are the things that really bring me back. But if I don't start my day with intention, even if it's just 15 minutes, say I don't have like the full 2 hours, um, it's just that much harder.
Okay, two questions. One, what time do you go to bed? Because
I
4:30 is
know.
so damn early.
I know. I usually go to bed at like 8:45 or 9.
Okay, got
Yeah,
it.
early.
And 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 then when people are in this season of November, December,
Yeah.
it's 111 right now.
Of
What
course it
what?
is.
I've become one of those people. And they can't do
Yeah.
their beautiful routines that you
Yes.
just described because we usually, a lot of us have people, if you're listening to this podcast, you probably have a routine
Yep.
of some sort, but maybe
Yep.
you're going to go visit some family, or maybe family's coming to visit you,
Yep.
and it's all kind of thrown off a bit. So then what do
Yeah.
we do? What do we do?
Yeah. I say it's good to know what your routines are depending on how much time you have. So I tell my clients, just show up for yourself and celebrate what you're able to do. So even if you have just 5 minutes, like, and you don't have a lot of time or you're traveling, I'd say go outside. Like go outside, connect with the sun, get your circadian rhythm in a really good place. Maybe you're doing that while you're enjoying your first cup of coffee or tea or whatever it is that you enjoy. Savor like each minute that you have. Do a couple of deep breaths if that feels good for you. Just walk around the block or wherever you are if you are able to do that. I would say I love routines that focus on physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional
Hmm.
health. And so it's like, what's one thing you can do for each of those things? I've done squats and push-ups against my granite countertop while I'm waiting for my coffee in the morning. Like if that's
Hmm.
what I have and that's the only physical movement I can do, I will say, what's 3 things I'm grateful for this morning and start with gratitude, or just have a quote book that you can open to and just read a passage,
Yeah, like a
doesn't matter.
modified version. Just do
Yeah,
your
a
best. Do your
modified.
best.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And then don't feel guilty. Like say,
Mm.
today I only have this time, or I'm choosing to not do a full morning routine because I have all this other stuff and I celebrate it because I'm still with intention showing up for myself.
Yeah, and sometimes it's more about the focus as opposed and the intention as
Yes.
opposed to how long and how
Right.
many times the repetition, right? Like
That's
quality
right.
over quantity.
Yes.
So I know, like, when I sit down in front of my Buddhist altar, I could sit there for an hour, 2 hours chanting. I could sit there for 5 hours. But if I'm
Yeah.
distracted, I can have three Nam-myoho Renge Kyos be more powerful than 2 hours. Right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's really, I think, our intention. So I
Mm,
listened to this gorgeous Kate Northrup episode of her podcast that was all about really doing less for the holidays
mm,
and really coming back to like, wait a minute, I just because this is a tradition doesn't
yeah.
mean I have to do it. And your life, what you've shared about so far, is really about re-examining.
Yes.
Wait,
Absolutely.
wait, does this work for me? Why am I doing this? What is the intention behind this? Do I really need to do this specific tradition just because there's an expectation? And how can I set up expectations around me that work for me and my family? So I'm curious if you have holiday tips for that kind of thinking.
Mm. Yeah, I think everything you said is so good. It's having a conversation with your family. Like my family and I, like my husband and the girls, we've had conversations to say, what's most important to us? for Christmas. And so Christmas Day is actually just us. We decided that with our families, we'll do Christmas Eve, and I do host, and we make it as easy as possible. It's, people bring stuff, make it easy. We talk about what's most important. Is it spending time? Is it really a gift? Is it, like a commitment to spend time together to do something? So it's having those kinds of conversations. I hate going to the stores. Like for me, it's super
Mm,
triggering. I don't like it. So for
yeah.
me, just being able to plan in advance if I do want to do gifts for people, like something that I think is thoughtful that gets delivered to my door is a lot easier. Um,
Yeah.
and we've also pared down a lot in our family, just like extended family, to say, hey, we would love to do stuff maybe just for the kids. And the rest of us, like
Totally.
my sister and my brother-in-law and my husband and I, we just decide like we're just going to go out to dinner sometime after the
Mm,
holidays when everything is calm. And we're gonna just plan that instead because we really just want to be able to have time together.
I love
And
it.
or just come to each other's houses. Like it doesn't have to be so over the top. Like I'll just share, like when the kids were small and I was in the height of my stress, my aunt and uncle live in Switzerland, and I decided that I wanted to leave the country because I was so like overwhelmed by just how crazy things get during Christmas time. And so we went to Switzerland, and stores are closed on Sundays. Stores close very early in the evenings. There aren't big gifts. Like we went outside in nature and we went for walks. And on a New Year's Eve, this in the center of town, the shops open and they're serving hot chocolate, and people are, singing carols. And like it just was a completely
Sign me
different.
up. I want to
I
go. I
know,
already wanted
right?
to go to Switzerland before this conversation. Now I'm
Yeah,
going. Oh my
because it
gosh.
was in Bern, and I was just like, wow, like who says that we can't create this exactly the way you want to? Who says you can't rechange traditions? Who says you can't, decide that it isn't about the gifts or decorating your house to the nines? Like
Yeah.
a couple of years ago, we're like, I'm not doing a live tree anymore. It was hard. It was great when the kids were small. I literally went to Target and bought a 50% off small tree that's very easy to decorate. It's
Yeah.
not a big deal.
Yeah.
And it's fine. Like it was
Yep.
just one of those things where I'm like, this is easier and it's still nice. And it doesn't have to be what it used to be when the kids were smaller.
One of the points that struck me, what Kate was talking about, was like when you make these meals, because I'm not going to name names, but I've
Yeah.
seen people
Yeah.
in my orbit that are doing the things that they think they need to do, and they're so stressed,
Yeah.
and we all feel it, and it's really uncomfortable.
Yeah. No one wants to eat food that was created from bad energy. Like nobody wants that. It doesn't feel good. But if the host is like so excited and welcoming and people are relaxed, like, isn't it about that? Wouldn't that feel so
Yeah.
much better than a table like where everything is just over the top and there's too many choices to eat from? And so yeah, I think it's just intention is the word that comes to everything. It's like asking yourself, why am I doing it? Does it serve me? Is it in the best interest? How does that align with my values and what's important? And then deciding, like, and if it doesn't work, just say bless and release. Bye. You don't have to
We,
do it.
yeah, last year, my brother suggested doing something separate, not on Christmas that we normally do.
Mm,
And it actually really helped because there was less stress and we
yeah,
just didn't have that kind of. I find that holidays like Christmas or New Year's or Valentine's or any of these kind of big expectation type of events, there's all this layer. And also,
yeah,
it can be a really, sorry to say it again, but triggering time
absolutely.
because there's so many memories built upon memories built upon memories of that same time, 5 years ago when this happened, right?
Yeah,
And so it just brings, for people like this time of year, it brings up so much emotion.
yeah, it's true. And um, right now, for me, this time of year, I'm in a purging stage. Like I'm releasing, I'm simplifying, I'm letting go of things. And so for me, um, the gift part, I think, is something we want to re-examine, and just to say, what could feel good?
Mhm.
And sometimes a lot less feels so much better.
Yes, yes. Yeah, really like what is the point here? Is this and just in life in general, like
Yeah.
is this about connection or
Right.
is this about trying to reach for something that you perceive is like you said you thought you were doing all the things that were
Yeah.
going to make you happy?
Yeah. No, the good thing is my husband and I, have you ever done the five love languages, the assessment?
Yes.
Okay. So we both have zero for gifts, like, which
Okay.
is, yeah. So we don't, like, he and I, like, we just don't exchange gifts for most holidays and things. Like, I would
Mhm.
rather we just spend time together, like, which
Yeah.
is more of our stuff. So I think it's important to also see and know maybe what motivates other people or what makes them feel loved, because
Right.
we make assumptions that it could be a gift, but maybe it's not.
Right.
Maybe, you know, and so maybe just having those conversations could be fun too. Just have everyone take the assessment. Hey, this could be kind of fun. Let's just see, because if it's not about the gifts, how could you make it even better? How could you create a new tradition that feels even more aligned, that is less stressful?
Hmm. Yeah, I love the idea of just going out to dinner together, being with people you love, and having that be what matters. I also love giving gifts. It can be really fun
Yeah,
too.
sure.
Yeah, so coming back to some questions prepared here. So, mindset shifts practices that helped you personally overcome burnout and transition from a successful corporate career to a fulfilling entrepreneurial journey. We
Mhm.
touched upon this a little bit, but is there anything you feel like we left out?
I think fears are real. And I think it's important to do some real fear work and identify, what is the fear? Is it true? How much of a risk is it really? So I do go through kind of a series of questions with my clients, and I did with myself as well. Like, what is the chance that this is really could happen, or that it would be a big impact? And then always ask myself, what if the complete opposite were true?
Mm.
Because if the complete opposite is so great, we tend to then still decide to move forward beyond the fear. So I think that's important. And I think just examining our thoughts and creating an awareness around some of the repeat thoughts that we have, and doing the work to identify, like, where did this come from, and digging a little bit deeper, I think is helpful. And as women, things like perfectionism comes up a lot. Sometimes weak boundaries comes up a lot. Sometimes people pleasing, continues to come up, or imposter syndrome. So it's important to address that these are real, and we feel this way, but then do the work to identify, okay, how do we move past this? Is this something that we're finally ready to let go of? Because sometimes we take these on as identities and we just think this is who we are, but it's
Right.
not necessarily true.
Yeah, that's really insightful. I love how you touched upon all of these core elements that I've been hearing a lot too. So here's the next question, and then we'll wrap up. How do you guide clients to redefine
Mm.
success in a way that aligns with their personal values while navigating high pressure environments?
Oh, I love doing this work. It really starts off with asking, what's most important to you? What are your North Stars? What are those values that if someone were looking back on your life and you were looking back and you said, wow, that was a really well lived life. I lived in integrity. And so first is starting to say, what are those things? And there's plenty of assessments, there's words you can find. We kind of go through an exercise. And once you do that, then I ask them, and in your current life, looking at all these areas of life, 12 different areas we look at, how happy are you, or how joyful are you in these areas? What, 1 to 10, what does that look like for you? And then we say, and what would a 10 look like? What would it look like if to feel so good in your body, like that you're healthy? What would it look like to in your career? What would it look like in all your relationships? And go through that and redefine it. And then based on that, we can say, okay, so now what needs to change? If I
Mm,
looked at your calendar and opened up your calendar, what would someone say? What would I say is most important to you? Are your values even represented there? And if
right.
not, what needs to shift and what needs to change. And that's
Yeah.
how you do it. So it starts with knowing what it is that you want. Where are you today in your baseline, and where do you want to go? And then doing the little steps every single day.
I love how you have these outlines and questions and ways of taking people through, really identifying and looking at and exploring and re-examining and getting clear on where they
Yeah.
need to go. It's great. So, third question, what inspired the concept behind live the width of your life,
Mhm.
and how do you hope it impacts listeners in their own transformational journeys?
Yeah, so I read a quote. It's by Diane Ackerman, and she said, I don't want to get to the end of my life and realize I just lived the length of it. I want to have lived the width of it.
Mm.
And I was not living the width of my life as I define it when I read it. And I had to think through, well, what does that look like for me? And for me, it meant acknowledging that I do not know how many days I have on this planet. I do not know when my last breath will expend from this body, but and I can't control that. However, what I can control is what I choose to do with my life today, which is the only life that we have. And so the width is, how do you ensure that every single day is lived in a way with intention, with meaning, that's aligned, that feels good, tied to your purpose. And so that's what inspired it. And I love asking all of my podcast guests what their definition is. And it's a little bit different for everybody, as it should be. And usually people will go, God, I love this question. And I'm like, good. And I love to hear the responses. And so then I trademarked Live the Width, and I wrote a book with the same title, just more about my own experience. And it's a daily meditation book. So you can read just one page every single day. There's a journal prompt or a challenge, and there's a different theme every single month, because it should help you on your journey. If you just have 1 minute, you can read a page and hopefully reflect on that the rest of the day.
Oh my gosh, that's so incredible. You've added such value to the world with your work.
Oh,
So
thank
thank
you.
you for doing what you do. Thank you for being on your path. Thank you for being so dedicated that you wake up at 4:30 so that you can be the crystal clear guide for others. It's such important work.
Mm-mm.
Okay,
Thank you.
last little PS. You're so welcome. You so deserve that validation and to be seen in that
Mm.
way and to be known for that, and I mean, writing a book, doing a podcast, helping clients, like these are all so vital and important and big, big, big things that take so much heart and life force. And we don't always get the acknowledgement. And I'm sure you
Yeah.
have, but we always deserve more. So, PS. I think that you did a retreat in Italy.
Oh, yeah, I did a retreat in Tuscany last year, and I did two this year in two international in Portugal and then Northern Ireland in September.
Okay,
Oh my
I,
gosh.
I just want to hear some highlights, some juicy highlights.
Oh, um, amazing locations. Like everything that I do, I bring together to curate these experiences for a week for my clients. And then I also infuse them with beautiful excursions. So they get the cultural immersion piece. I get chefs that are local, that are cooking at the home. We go and get tour guides that take us to most amazing places. And I find homes that are just like out of this world, that you're like, I woke up every day going, I can't believe this is where I am right now. And so the house this year was amazing because we were facing the ocean and we got to see the sunset every single night. So after dinner, we'd come out and we would sit on our long patio with wrapped in blankets, and we would watch the sunset together. And it was just magical.
Now, was that the Ireland or the Italian place? Which
That
place
was
was?
Portugal. That
Oh,
was
Portugal.
Portugal.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And then in Tuscany last year, our home was this, I think it was a 14th century villa. And we have this infinity pool. And from that view where we were practicing, we could see Florence. And so every night you could see the lights of Florence twinkling.
Mm.
And there were just like olive trees everywhere and cypress bushes and just like gorgeous, magical, amazing. And Ireland, we were across the street from Tollymore Forest, which is where they filmed part of Game of Thrones. So lush, amazing, green, beautiful. I believe in fairies and everything else. Like when you go in there,
Love it.
like this is so beautiful and amazing. And every retreat has its own experience, and the magic is the people that come together and the location and all the other stuff, but it really is just an immersion in like the beauty of life. It's
Mm.
like all of those things that come together, which just makes these retreats amazing. And I feel so grateful being able to facilitate them and create them.
They sound absolutely dreamlike, picturesque, quintessential. I mean, like these are just life bucket moments, I'm sure. So, are you going to do another one in the future? Should we
Of
stay
course.
tuned?
Yes. Yeah, yeah. I'm thinking next year. So I've been doing them in September. I think that that works for people who, for a lot of folks. And so I'm thinking September's still good. It's not super hot. It's kind of a little off season.
Hmm.
Um, it may be Croatia next year. I haven't
Okay.
confirmed it yet. So I don't have a confirmed location yet. I love to go to different places, and I try to pick places that are easy to fly into, easy to get around, like remove a lot of the barriers, like make it super simple. And what else can I tell you? I'll probably do some domestic ones too. So I will let folks know. I'm currently also finishing up my second book. So very
Yay.
excited. Yeah. So I need to get the draft to my editor, I think by the end of the year. I told him so. So exciting things happening.
Very, very cool. Where would you like people to find your information? And
Yeah.
where would you like people to get in touch with you?
Yeah, I would say the easiest place is my website, anetakuzma.com, and you will find all my socials there. Any way that you can connect with me, you can email me, reach out to me any way. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, on Instagram. Of course, the podcast, you can get links to the podcast there as well. You can get the books, learn about the retreats, all of the stuff. And I am doing something for, I don't know when this will come out, but for the end of the year, one of the things for people that are on the fence about coaching and don't want to make a huge investment of time or resources, I'm doing an accelerated 4 intensive coaching sessions, focusing on one goal. And so I invite anyone that maybe is like, wants to get unstuck or make traction if they haven't been able to do it on their own. I will be promoting that from now until the end of the year as well.
Amazing. Aneta, I love that we're friends. I love that
Me
I'm going to be
too.
learning so much more from you because we've only
Ah,
just scratched the surface. I'm so glad that everyone could come along with me in discovering you and your world and what you're creating and dive into the wisdom of all the things you have to offer. It sounds incredible, all of it. You're clearly so capable of helping people make these transitions and have these deep transformations for themselves. I can't wait to keep collaborating in new ways with you. I know I'm going to get to be on your podcast soon. I can't wait.
yes.
Thank you so much for your time. I think there's a lot of gems in here that people can go back and listen and grab those gems for themselves or share this with someone else that they think that this
Mm.
would help if there was something that resonated for them. Guys, thank you so much for listening. Please keep expanding your capacity to feel good one breath at a time so you can live your most aligned, most authentic life. Thank you so much, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Sari.
You're welcome.